The storm came down the mountain like a held breath, finally released. Snow did not fall so much as it arrived with intention, thick and sideways, stitching the sky to the earth until Briar's Hollow became a white blur of chimneys and doubts. Nights like that had a way of reminding a town what it truly was, small, fearful, and quick to close its doors. I remember thinking, even then, that the snow listened. It always did. It remembered who turned away. At the edge of the road, where the last lantern surrendered to dark, something moved against the wind. At first it looked like a trick of the storm, a shadow folding in on itself. Then it stumbled forward, low to the ground, dragging silence behind it. A German shepherd, heavy with life, her belly taut and swaying, her breath tearing the cold as if each inhale were borrowed. Ice clung to her fur. One paw left a red punctuation in the snow before the wind erased it. She did not whine. She did not beg. She only kept going, as if the town owed her nothing and she expected no kindness in return. Someone saw her from behind a frosted window. Then another. Words moved faster than feet ever would. Wolf blood, someone said. Bad timing, said another. A pregnant dog in a blizzard was a problem, and Briar's Hollow had always been skilled at calling fear by more respectable names. Bolts slid home. Curtains were drawn. The general store went dark early. Even the church door stayed shut, its bell frozen silent above it all. The dog stood in the road for a long moment, snow gathering along her spine, then turned away. Rejection has a sound, if you know how to listen. It sounds like quiet choosing itself over mercy. Beyond the last house, past the split-rail fences bowed under white, stood a cabin most folks pretended not to see. Calder Wren lived there, half in the trees, half in exile. People said he liked it that way. It was easier than saying he no longer knew how to belong. He had come back from the war years ago with medals he never displayed, and a posture that never softened. The Navy had trained the noise out of him. What it left behind was stillness, useful in combat, heavy everywhere else. That night, Calder was mending a trap by lamplight, hand steady, mind far away. The storm worried the roof, like an old regret. He felt it before he heard it. A shift in the silence outside, something alive resisting the wind. His instincts rose uninvited. He set the trap aside and opened the door, just enough for the cold to cut his breath short. The dog stood a few yards from his fence, head low, eyes pale and alert. Snow had turned her into something almost spectral, a creature shaped of winter itself. Calder took in the details without emotion, the swollen belly, the torn ear, the way she kept her weight off one leg. He had learned long ago not to rush toward anything wounded. Wounded things were unpredictable. They remembered pain. For a moment neither moved. The wind passed between them like a held question. Calder felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the reflex to step back, to let nature take its course. He had buried enough good intentions in foreign soil to know how this usually ended. Saving something did not guarantee it would stay saved. The dog met his gaze and did not look away. There was no accusation in her eyes, only a measured patience, as if she had already decided she would survive with or without him. That, more than the blood in the snow, undid him. He swore under his breath, the sound lost immediately to the storm, and stepped aside, leaving the door open. He did not speak to her. He did not need to. He fetched a blanket and laid it near the hearth, then turned his back and busied himself with the fire. When he looked again, she had crossed the threshold. She moved slowly, deliberately, every step chosen. The warmth hit her, and she trembled. A full-body shudder she could no longer hold back. Calder noticed how she positioned herself between him and the corner, how she tracked his movements without hostility, only caution. Trust, he knew, was not a switch. It was a long road walked together, mostly in silence. Outside, the storm sealed the world shut. Inside, the cabin filled with the small sounds of life insisting on itself. The pop of resin in the fire, the dog's uneven breathing, the distant howl of wind finding every crack. Calder set out a bowl of water and stepped away. She drank when he did not look. He pretended not to notice. Hours passed like that, measured not by clocks but by shifts in the air. The dog lay on her side, belly rising and falling, eyes half lidded but never sleeping. A low sound worked its way out of her throat, more vibration than noise. Calder recognized it from long nights spent listening to men hold themselves together under pressure. Something was coming, something that would not wait. In town, fear was changing its clothes. The storm had taken a turn, burying fences, swallowing landmarks. A child had not come home before dark. Voices rose, sharp with panic, and fell again under the weight of what no one wanted to admit. They would have to go out into it. Sheriff Boone Calder stood in the center of the street, his badge dull with frost, issuing orders that felt thin against the wind. When someone mentioned Calderon's cabin, Boone's jaw tightened. Family, like storms, had a way of finding you whether you wanted it to or not. Back in the cabin, the dog's breathing hitched. Calder knelt at a careful distance, hands resting uselessly on his knees. He had faced worse than this, or so he told himself. But this was different. There was no enemy to fight, no plan to execute, only a living being trusting him with the most fragile work there was. He stayed still. He stayed present. Sometimes that was the bravest thing a man could do. The wind rose, rattling the windows, and somewhere beyond the trees, Briar's Hollow held its breath. Calder looked at the door, at the white pressing in on the other side, and knew the night was not done asking things of him. The dog lifted her head and met his eyes again, and in that look was a quiet understanding. Dawn was a long way off, but whatever came next, they would face it together. The night thickened, folding around them like a heavy cloak, but inside the cabin, time slowed to the rhythm of slow breaths and careful waiting. Ghostwind's labor was not sudden. It crept in, silent and relentless, marked only by the subtle shivers coursing through her body. Calder remained close, his hand steady though his heart thudded unevenly, unfamiliar with this kind of helplessness. The fire's glow flickered over her fur, illuminating the soft rise and fall of life balancing on a fragile thread. One pup emerged into the world with a quiet, urgent struggle. Calder held his breath as the tiny creature lay still, its breath a faint whisper against the cold. He cupped it in his hands, warmth seeping through skin and fur alike, waiting for that spark to kindle. Minutes stretched into eternity, and then, a faint gasp, a breath stolen back from the brink. Relief washed over him, deep and sudden, as the storm outside intensified its fury, seemingly in defiance of the fragile new life within these walls. In the long hours that followed, Ghostwind's strength ebbed and flowed, her eyes never losing that fierce intelligence. Calder watched, learning the language of resilience, without words. He saw the slow burning wool beneath her exhaustion, the way she protected those small lives, with quiet ferocity. Outside, the wind battered the cabin, the storm claiming every tree and fence post in a frozen grip. But here, within these wooden walls, something stubbornly endured. Morning was a whispered promise, rather than a certainty. News came to Calder's ears carried on breathless footsteps. A child, little Anna May Hollis, had wandered too close to the ridge before the blizzard swallowed her path. The town was gripped by panic and regret, eyes turning reluctantly to the man they had long since placed beyond their reach. Boone's voice was firm when he warned that no one was to leave the safety of the hollow, but the undercurrent was clear. If anyone could find her, it was Calder. Ghostwind stood slowly as the fire dwindled, shaking snow and sweat from her coat, her gaze steady and commanding. Calder saw then that she was not merely a stray or a victim of circumstance. She moved with purpose, her steps sure against the frozen earth, as if the mountain itself whispered directions only she could understand. The realization settled quietly in Calder's chest. This dog was a survivor, trained and tested beyond the judgments of Briar's Hollow. Together, they ventured out, the storm a living wall pressing against them. Ghostwind led with instinct sharpened by experience, her body a beacon of grace through the blinding white. Calder followed, steady and watchful, each step a careful negotiation with the wilderness. The cold bit into their faces, but neither faltered. They were bound by necessity, two broken things moving toward hope. The ridge came into view, a jagged silhouette against the gray dawn, and there beneath a twisted pine, the child lay, pale but breathing. Ghostwind pressed close, her body a shield against the unforgiving cold. Calder knelt, scooping Anna May into his arms, feeling the frail weight of her fear and wonder mingled in the small bundle. There was no triumph in his eyes, only the quiet acceptance that some things were never simple. The journey back was slower, each step measured, the storm easing as if in respect. Ghost Wind stayed close to Calder's side, her head low, eyes never leaving the child. The town watched from behind shuttered windows as the trio emerged from the white veil, silent witnesses to a grace they had long forgotten to recognize. Boone's gaze met Calder's briefly, a flicker of something unspoken passing between brothers, fractured by years and choices. Inside the cabin, Ghost Wind collapsed near the hearth, exhaustion unraveling her proud stance. Her puppies, warm and safe, nestled quietly nearby. Calder tended to her wounds with rough kindness, the weight of the night settling into something softer, something like peace. The fire crackled low, and outside, the world began to breathe again. There were no grand celebrations in Briar's Hollow, no parades or accolades. The victory was quieter, wrapped in the steady pulse of survival and the slow reclaiming of dignity. Calder knew he would not stay long, that the town's whispers would soon find new prey. But for now, in this moment carved from snow and silence, something had changed. And as the old voice returns, softened by years and softened even more by memory, it speaks directly to you, the watcher, the listener, the keeper of stories. It says this: sometimes the fiercest storms come not from the skies, but from the hearts that refuse to soften. The ones we cast aside may carry the fiercest light, the quietest courage. When the cold finds you, remember the warmth found in unexpected places, and let that guide you through your own blizzards. If this whispered tale has touched something deep inside, if it has warmed your spirit as the fire warmed Calder's cabin, then stay a while longer. Subscribe, and walk with me through the quiet stories of winter, of survival, and of love that speaks without words. Because sometimes, the smallest acts of grace are the ones that save us all.